Hey coaches, Thad Wells here to talk to you about practice planning. One of the most important things we do as football coaches, one of the things at least I did spend probably more time than anything doing, especially during the season, is trying to make sure that we are efficient with the time we do have in practice. I used to spend a lot less time with it. It wasn't as big of a focal point. I would just kind of use the old practice templates and just say, hey, running backs here, with quarterbacks, working on this and that. I wasn't very detailed. The more I studied some of the great coaches and the more I saw how long it took them to schedule practices and the details that they invested into it, I started focusing more on practices and making sure that our coaches, and especially at our level, for myself, a lot of coaches don't have the time to schedule their individual practices or always they're like, let's say, individual. So I had to help them more. So I had to have more details in my schedule. Now, the typical way that a high school coach and a college coach, and really any coach that I've seen schedule, is using an Excel file or a Google Sheets file where they have the positions broken down on a sheet, and they just say, hey, at this period, you're going with these guys and you're doing this. Or you're an individual, hey, you got 10 minutes, figure it out. About 7-8 years ago, started messing with a different way to plan practices and shared that with coaches, tweaked it, and have continued to tweak it. And now this practice planning system is a part of Rooski. So if you are a member of Rooski Pro, you do get this with your subscription. But this is also an option if you want it separately from everything else within Rooski, kind of a la carte. You can do that as well. But today I want to talk to you about the principles of practice planning, and then show you how I go about it, and kind of some of the details about this Rooski Pro planning practice script, if you will. But practices, again, are one of the most important things we do as coaches. And the game of football, and if you listen to me ever talk about the game, it's more than anything, it's increasing potential. So every football team has X amount of potential at the beginning of a season. All off season, our goal is to increase that potential. We're trying to get people onto our teams. We're trying to motivate them to put energy and effort into growing their genetic potential to maximize that off the field. And then we're trying to take their God-given talents that they've been blessed with, their potential, and turn it into a skill that we then mesh together on game day into plays that win the most space. That's what we're trying to do in the game of football. And practices are one of, if not, again, the most important things we do in that whole spectrum of what we have to do as coaches. We use it to inspire our people. And if they're not good, then we may not have our people for long. And we may get more people to us if our practices are organized well, because the players go and they talk. If you're at the high school level or youth levels, they go and talk and say how fun or exciting or good practices are, how well they feel coached. Or if you're at another level and you don't have organized practices, then you're going to lose people in today's world of the transfer portal and everything else. But so organizing these practices, we only have X amount of time with our kids, whether that's mandated by your league's rules, or whether just by the fear or the sheer aspect that we're limited by time, that we have to manage that and be efficient and get the most out of it. The game, with trying to reach our potential, it is so important to maximize the methods that we use to get there. So on game day, everybody is trying to achieve success, and you can only achieve in that moment what you're capable of. All right. So when the ball is kicked off, everybody's capable of let's say reaching 100% of success, right? Let's say success is on a spectrum here, 100%. Well, when the game kicks off, you are only really capable of, let's say, 80% of what your potential is because of how you practice during the week. And we don't even reach what we're capable of on game day. So let's say we have 100% potential, all right, that we're blessed with. And all off season, all week, all this time that we put in, we had this much potential, but at kickoff we only have 80% that we're capable of because of the effort we put in before the game. And then on game day, we don't even reach our capabilities. We only achieve, let's say, 60% of that. So a big portion in trying to increase our capabilities for game day, to increase our potential, to grow everything, again, is practice. There are three main things that I think about now in planning a practice and in planning every drill. These are three principles. So last year at the University of Virginia, I spent a lot of time getting to step back, to learn, to grow, to watch Coach Mendenhall and how he ran that program. And one day I was watching drills and something just kind of hit me. These principles, these three things that every drill needs to have in it, and really every practice as a whole needs to have in it. The number one thing is safety. So when you're scheduling a practice, when you're creating a drill, everything you do needs to be safe, right? It doesn't matter how much potential you have if somebody's on the sideline due to an injury. So now there's a gamble there, right? In certain things that you're trying to do, that safety has to be considered. And sometimes they're almost everything you do, there's a risk reward to trying to get something into your players, but there might be risk of an injury. So you're always balancing that. But you have to consider everything you do in practice and in a drill, you have to consider safety. Number two is effectiveness. So if you're going to do a drill, or you're going to have a group session or a team session, you're trying to say, is what we're doing going to effectively help us win space on game day? And so you have safety, then you have effectiveness. The third one is efficiency. So if what we're doing is safe and we're not going to get hurt, if what we're doing is effective and going to help us win space on game day, then number three is, how efficient can we be at this? With the amount of time we're willing or allowed to dedicate at practice, how many reps can I get at an effective plan? So if it's safe, it's effective, then how many times can I do that? And that kind of ties back into the safety and, not wearing your kids out and all those things. But those are the three things that I ask anytime I'm trying to. It's kind of like the principles behind practice design, behind drill design. So you could see like, hey, yes, this drill's safe. This drill's effective. We think it's going to help a DB break on a ball. But, man, it's not really efficient because only one's going at a time. It takes forever to set up. So now I got to tweak that drill until it is efficient. Or it's not effective. It can be efficient. A lot of people get a lot of reps, but it's not really effective of doing what we want it to do. So that's one way to check everything you're really doing in designing a practice. Now, another thing that I think about a lot in designing practices is that we're trying to use practice to test these hypotheses that we have created, these game plan, these thoughts that we've created, in the off season, in game planning on the weekend and throughout the week. We use practice to test those things. And so if we're getting to team or if we're in groups, 7-on-7, whatever, we have these thoughts that we're testing. Well, I need to make sure my practice is efficient at testing those things. So after practice, I can come off, I can watch film and say, no, that's not going to work. I need to change our plan. I need to change the script. So practice is really big for testing things. And then another big aspect of practice of what we're trying to do ultimately is accomplish the game plan again, that script on game day. So if we were testing things, we're making it better, more effective, more efficient, all those things. Well, what do you actually do in practice? So if you have, let's say we have 2 hours of practice time or an hour and 15 minutes or whatever you do, or it's camp week and it's longer. Well, if we've got X amount of time, what ultimately, if we are safe, if we're effective, if we're efficient, what causes something to be effective is really the question I'm thinking in my mind. What causes this practice schedule to be effective towards reaching our goal? What is our goal of practice? Well, if we go back to the whole potential thought and talent and skill, well, one of the main things we're trying to do is turn that talent that you've built in the weight room, right, that you've built into the conditioning, you're trying to turn that talent into a skill. So skill building, the literal science of skill building, taken from Talent Code and some other books, but it says take the whole, which is like a football play, break it down into its pieces, create a mental model of what a good rep looks like, a good executed assignment, what that looks like, engrave that on a player's mind, and then rep it and rep it and rep it. You start slow, you build up difficulty, you basically stress somebody, you rest them, you stress them differently, harder, faster, whatever way increases that stress on a player to build their ability, their skills overall. So then you build that skill and then you mesh it all back together. If we're specifically talking about football here, it's basically we take the designs of the process of what makes a play good. So winning space, we take that play and we pull out the pieces. So if power is a play we're trying to practice, then we look at all the little things. The pull of the guard, the combo by the center and the other guard. Maybe it's a route of an RPO and the mesh for a quarterback to read that RPO. Well, we break all those pieces out, all 11 individual assignments. And then we figure how do we rep those in an efficient and effective manner, in a safe manner that allows us to combine all these things back together where we have built skill. So you build that, you pull it out, you build the skill, you rep the skill, and then you get it back together. And in football, a lot of the ways we do that is through individual. Also, I'll take that back. A lot of it is installation. Then it's pulled. It's kind of like looking at the whole method. You install the whole, right? Then you break about the parts in the individual. Then you sort of put it back together in group. So coming towards it, and then a team. You put it all back together and you test it. And so that's kind of the why or the how and the really the theory behind how most coaches do schedule practices. And so that is kind of the thought and theories that go in my mind. But what about actually scheduling the practice? So when you sit down, what does that look like? So I'm gonna come over to this system that we're talking about. I'm going to kind of give you an interview of it, and then kind of an overview of how to use it, and then I'll show you some of my practice schedules that I've built with it just over the last few months. I'll talk about youth camps that we've created with it, spring ball practices, these summer workouts, including the weight room, all that. But so we'll go over to this screen. So this is just kind of a demo. This is kind of the page you come to if you get it, and it just kind of has a little bit of an overview. But you're going to want, this video is going to be the best. It has a couple notes here, but you're going to want to watch this video to make sure you understand how to use it. So it is a Google Sheet. So if you're not familiar with Google, you can create a free Google account to access this. And basically, once you either purchase or subscribe to Rooski Pro, you'll get a link which will copy this into your Google Drive, and then you can make as many copies as you want to with it. We just ask that you obviously don't share that. It'll be forever yours. So if you go, so this again, that first tab is really just a disclaimer and just kind of some info, but really you want to go to this tab called All, and this is where everything really happens. So what you're seeing here is the periods on the left, so 1 through, and you can really extend this, but it's through 44, which is more than I never really need. Here's the time, so you can either say like 5, 5, 5, or 3, or if you just want to say the minutes, so you could change this right here, and it will change it everywhere down here on these tabs, and I'll show you that. But I'm just saying, let's say practice starts at 3:30. I do it by 5-minute increments, and that's how I like to do it. So let's say that so this encompasses from 3:30 all the way to 7:05 if you're going to really do that. But anyways, and we use that sometimes when we're including in camps and have our workouts on here. So it does get a little long at times, but we hardly ever have this all the way filled out. Obviously, during the season, we don't practice that long. But anyways, right here, this first tab here, it's a date. So it automatically populates the date when you create this, so that it's on the top of all your practice schedules in case somebody sets one on beside their practice schedule from the other day or whatever. You can see what day it is. For me right here, you can really put whatever you want to here. You could change this, but like I like to put here like what are our pads. So this will be like full pads or shells or helmet, or nothing. But that's kind of just where I put that for myself. It doesn't really carry over anywhere. It's just for me when I'm planning. All right, so this first row up top is really, it's a couple things. All right, I'll come back to what this message is, but the rest of these up here are really just copy and paste templates for color coding this Again, I'll show you in a minute how I do that, but they don't really do anything, and you're free to change these, and you can add all you want up at the top here. All right. The message tab is where I put our team message. All right. So if you see all these little arrows in between, these are all hidden columns. All right. So I'm going to click this, and it's going to open this other column. And right here says this message will appear at the top of each printout. So this is where, and I'll talk about this portion later, but this is where I put my team message to the team. And when I print this, right here at the top of all the coaches' practice schedules will be this message. And I'll show you what that looks like more, but just so you know what that means right here. So I might say, you know, a quote. I have a Bible verse at the top for our coaches right now, but you could change it, you know, every day. Put a quote, put a thought, you know, motivation, whatever you need for your coaches right there. But the rest of that top column is just so you can copy and paste. So let's say, for example, if I'm color coding this thing, okay, so this is the Coach 1's like drill section, okay? So you see Coach 1, Coach 2, Coach 3, Coach 4, all the way up to Coach 18. Now, I know most people don't have 18 coaches, but we actually use this for filmers too. So if we have like 2 filmers, then I'll change this from, well, what I do is I change all these to the coach's name. So this might say Thad, right? And this might say or OC or DC, or it could say, you know, running backs or whatever you want to do right there. You can change this. What I do is I put the offensive coach, I put myself here because when I'm building this, I start with mine. And then I put all the offensive coaches in a row. Then I put our defensive coaches here. And then for me, I actually schedule our middle school and JV practices, or at least give them a template. So I put them there, and then I'll put filmers. So you can see how this adds up. But I like to help out at all levels. So I do really our whole program with this. If you've got social media people, if you you got a we like to try to get a practice DJ. Kids love to do that, you know, music. So we might even schedule different music for each section and have those kids playing different things. We got a video board at practice, so we may change the video on there. But again, you know, that's where this almost like you're kind of orchestrating much more than just a football practice. You know, as a head coach, at least there's a lot more going on, but you can obviously pare this down if you're just a coordinator and want to just do this for, let's say, offense, and you don't want the whole thing or use it for everybody. But anyways, so here you would change the coach's name. So this was Thad now. So what I would do is go to C1 down here, and I'm going to change that to Thad as well. But you can see it automatically changed the name right here. That's a formula. You see anywhere there's a formula, you probably shouldn't type there. All right, but I'm going to go back over. All right, so I'm going to leave all these other coaches just as they are. But so how I start to plan practice is I kind of build a template. So let's say that we're going to start off the day with warm-up. Okay, well, if that's the case, then I keep it white and black, which is this other tab here, and I'll literally just say warm. All right, so I might start by typing in warm, and let's say it's 10 minutes. I'll copy and paste. You know, we warm up for 5 minutes usually, or less than that, but let's just say we got warm right there. And then the next thing I might do is pre-practice. So again, I'm going to say, and again, you can type uppercase, lowercase, however you like to do it. But let's say it's pre-practice right there. I might type pre-practice. All right, let's say we do that for 10 minutes. Well, I'm going to copy and paste that right there. All right, so now we've got our warm-up. We've got our pre-practice in. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to build our, it's time we're going to do a special team. So I just copy and paste the yellow. And again, these colors don't go on the final practice schedule. This is just for me to practice it. But I know I want 2 periods. And let's say today we're going to work on field goal. So I've got a 10-minute section on field goal. All right, let's say next we're going to compete. So we want to go from special teams to kind of liven things up. So I put that in there. Let's say we're going to do a goal line session. Right, we're going to do team for 5 minutes, right? Just do a team goal line, compete, really high tempo. Let's just get things flowing. All right, from there, we may start to, and this can go in a lot of directions, but I'll just kind of go how we're doing this right now. Let's say I know that I'm going to be on, we're going to have high school offense right now. Let's say your guys have to go both ways. You can do this 2 platooning. You can do this, well, you know, in a million different ways. Let's say we got high school offense. So I might say, hey, for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes, we're going to do high school offense. And then for the next 30 minutes, it's going to be high school defense. All right, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So I'll just paste that in there. So now I've got kind of a template going. All right. And so I'm starting to look. I do this for mine first. And then, but once I get let's say during the season, once I have a Monday template and a Tuesday template and a Wednesday, man, this is so fast. You just copy and paste and just change. You don't have to do this every time. This is just really the beginning. So here we would, I would start to, let's say for example, it's like, okay, let's go with this 30 minutes. What we're going to do is we're going to do indie. Again, let's say we got 10 minutes of indie typically, and then we may go, we're going to do group for these 10 minutes, and then we're going to do a team. And again, this isn't exactly how I would schedule it, but I'm just trying to give you something right now. Okay, but okay, now I'm starting to see, okay, this is kind of how the high school, at least, offensive practice is going to go. Then I can do the same thing with defense. Now, I'm the offense coordinator of school. I've got a defense coordinator. He does anything that I color code in his color. He comes in and schedules. All right, so for example, let's say you want your offensive line coach. All right, let's make this guy the running back. Let's make him the O-line coach now. And you know what? I'm going to add a section up here for myself that's O-line scheduling. Okay, so I'm going to change. I don't like that color. We want to change the color there. All right, so from now on, for the offensive line coach, I'll say, hey, man, you've got actually this. Well, we're doing field goals, so we need our offensive line. But if it was another special teams, I'd actually put it here, and he could go off on his own. But let's say right now, it's like, okay, I'm not actually going to schedule that now. My O-line coach is going to come in here, and he's going to schedule it because he knows he's the purple guy. So, I mean, you could really do that with your whole coaching staff. It's just say, hey, go to the all tab, schedule your section. And as I keep talking, this will make more sense here in a second. All right, but I'm scheduling practice. I'm creating everything here. So, okay, I've got a template. Now I might start building everybody's practice schedule for them. So I'm going to erase that offensive line. Let's say I need to do the offensive line. Well, I'm going to, for example, let's say, well, I need all this over here. I'm going to pop this in here, right? So there's all that for him. But now I'm going to go ahead and put it all in here. But now it's going to say like O-line Indy for him. And I can leave it as group or team, but I'll say, okay, during group, for this period, he's got inside drill, okay, while we might be doing like one-on-ones with the other guys. And then we're in team, so I can leave team. So now I can start to change it individually. Where let's say, all right, this was the quarterback coach. I'm just going to do this real quick. On this, I might say, hey, well, you've got QB Indy, all right, and then instead of inside, you're going to lead one-on-ones for this right here. So now he's got one-on-ones during that time. All right, so that's just, you can kind of see how this starts to take shape. Well, there's also a notes section. This is what really brings into power. Okay, so if I click this, now I've got all these notes. So let's say, and again, the first time you do this, it takes a little time, but you can see how copying and pasting will help this. It says, during warm-ups, I might say, hey, so-and-so coach, Jones will lead. Let's say he's your strength guy. Everyone else needs to support, walk around, and engage, blah, 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 blah. Right? So I kind of put those notes in there, making sure our coaches, hey, man, during warm-ups, let's get around, let's engage with the team, let's high five, let's talk about, how their day was and just get them focused or whatever. Then pre-practice, for if this is mine, right, I'm not really going to get too detailed because I know what I'll be doing. But if there's another coach, let's say the O-line coach, for example, I might say, hey, during pre-practice, you're working with Field Goal Pro during pre-practice. So he's got the guys that aren't on anything else during pre-practice, and he's working field goal protection. Or maybe our field goal, or this offensive line guy works with short snappers, right? And so I could add all this detail. I could type up. You can add as many notes as it is long with this font, and that'll fit into that person's thing. So as you can see, I can start going through here. And now what I do is then I go and I hide somebody's when I'm done with it, so it's not in my way. But you can see, you can start just filling this in. All right, and I'll do a little bit more on this one just so you can see how it starts to play out. Okay, so let's say all these guys are offensive thing, so it's going to end up looking something like this. All right, so this is offense, this is an offensive person, this is offensive person, this is offensive person. All right, well now actually these are because these are my offensive coaches and they don't work on a high school defense, they're actually going to go to JV offense during this period. They're going to help the JV offense. All right, so during this time period, they're all with JV offense. And again, I would only copy and paste once I'm ready to do that. But here's all the defensive coaches. All right, well, they work JV defense during this period, during this time. All right, so now once I get this kind of filled out, I just start, let's say I've got it all done. I copy and paste everything over, and now all of our defensive coaches are starting to take shape, right? And then maybe down here, we just bring it all back together. We're really competing, and this is just team. Everybody's in team now. So let's say we do it for 20 minutes, and then just as I go through them there, everybody's going to end up in team. So you can see I start to populate this, create this. I create templates from Monday through Thursday during the season, and then during camp month. Really, it's just copy and paste. But it starts to fill out. Let's say down here, this guy's film. Let's say he's film 1. Well, I might say, hey, I need end zone of this. So that's all I really and then I'll go put notes and be like, hey, make sure you're getting tackle to tackle. Hey, make sure you're getting all 22. It's like, hey, I need this filmer to be end zone during this. I need you to get sideline film in this. Hey, would you get some social shots during this period just so we can put it on, social media, blah, blah, blah. So I can direct my filmer during this time. And again, I'm telling you, I know it's a lot up front. It just becomes copy and paste once we get going. All right, so that's how you start to tweak it, start to build this whole thing. Now, when you type things in, all right, so look at Coach 11. All right, Coach 11's all blank, right? There's nothing on there. Well, if I go back and I look at, Thad and mine, all right, I go to Thad's tab. Well, now that's starting to get put in here. All the drills are getting put over here. Then all the notes get put all through here. All right, and then when I want to print, I simply go to print, and then that is what the sheet looks like. It prints out. So I can say workbook. I go all sheets. I turn off the Rooski and the all, and I'll talk about the head coach in a minute. But I turn those off, and now, all right, I'm going to just be printing. And the print system a little slow as it's, with recording this video, it slows it down a little bit. But once I apply that, so now here you go. I'm printing out just everybody's uniquely individual printouts that tells them exactly what to do. All right, so still on this. So on this this one right here, this one will say Coach 1 at the bottom. Well, where it says Coach 1, whatever, you could change your team name here. So I'm at Lakeway Christian, but when I change that there on Coach 1, it changes on everybody's right there. So see, I'll go back and I'll take that off of Coach 1 back to team name. Well, then it automatically changes it on everybody. So you don't have to type that in a bunch. And then here's another little area. If you want to put in another message on Coach 1, you can do it. Like if I change that there, it's going to change on everybody else's. Or if you don't want it there, if you don't want it there, delete it. And now everybody's is gone. But just another place to put a little reminder. Mine, I just tell the coaches to make sure that it's a reminder to read everything before practice and to follow the schedule. It's just kind of a reminder. I know a lot of coaches, sometimes they go out there last second, they didn't read through it, they don't follow it, but that's just always trying to remember to follow the details of the practice schedule for myself. And I'll show you mine here in a second. But one last tab on this, the head coach tab. So I don't print this one out because it's usually color coded and it just doesn't print well. So what I do have is this head coach version. So if I print it, just this one right here, I'll go to landscape. And it prints out where everybody is. So I might, on my Thad schedule, I've got what I'm doing during the day. But if I want to know where everybody is, if I need a look or something, you can print that out. I don't actually print this out that much, but some coaches like that, so we've included it in there. So now let me go and show you an example of what some of these look like that I've made. So here's a mini camp from just like a youth camp from back this past spring. And it's not color coded because this was kind of unique where it was a mini camp. It wasn't for our high school players. It was for the youth. So I just built, really I ran this and our other coaches just kind of learned and watched. It was my first thing I ever did with the coaches here. So it really, all I did was build this in mine and copied and pasted it over for everybody else's. But here's the period. And I did some A/B scheduling kind of with this because it was a little different. We restarted some things, but anyways, you can kind of modify these things obviously to fit your own needs. We started at 9:30. Registration was till 10, so this first block was really 30 minutes. And then once at 10, this was a 5-minute, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. This was like I changed it up a little bit. I needed it to be different. Then at 11:30 we ended, and a new registration started, and so it made it unique to what was going on. And then here are all my details for exactly what I was going to go over, what I needed to remember, and what I wanted my coaches to see. So when I'll go to print, this is what it looks like. So this was the coach one, which I didn't have a coach's names yet, so this was coach one. And then when you go to print it, that printout looked like this. Lakeway football. Today's camp is about having fun and getting to know people. And then right here's my reminder to always do your best to know and follow the details below. This is coach one. This is a mini camp. There's our logo, which again, you can change the logo. Obviously, you don't have to use the Rooski thing. Right here on the head, on the coach one, whatever image you put here by going to insert image in cell, put your own image there or just delete that and there won't be an image. So you can have an image there however you want. But that's kind of was our mini camp schedule there. And then here is a look at our first spring session, which was very mini camp-ish. So this is everything we did on our first spring ball session. And you can see here all the details were put in that. Again, all I had to do is copy and paste because we were all together this day. Just I was teaching coaches, all at the same time. But here's all the details for that camp. Now let's go to a spring ball 4. So this starts to look a little different. Here I am, and you can change these and add these. These are a little bit different for myself up here, but I've got a fun tab, I got a fundamentals. Anyways, but this is a shorter day, but I color coded everything we were doing. It's got the notes. Again, when I go to print this, this is our offensive line coaches and 15 minutes of Indy. He put that in there where mine's a little different, and these are the install plays. We're using Alpha 23, which, our Rooski play calling system really molds well with this, but that's a different discussion. And so that's what this day looked like. This was another spring day. And this was just a few last week as we started camp for the season. So this is fall camp 2022. We start out with workouts right now. And then we do some pre-practice. We go to special teams. We had some run mesh while the offensive line. This was like one of the first days, so this was like all install with those guys. And then we had a long water break. We do obviously let kids have water during the day, but we have a long water break in between as we switch while everybody goes different paths. You can see all our coaches' names are at the bottom. Mine looks different than everybody else's. When you print them out, I go to the workbook. I turn the schedule off. I don't need all this down here necessarily. I'll apply that, and then you can see everybody's is a little different. It's got their names on it. It's got a Bible verse on there for us, but ends up being a little bit more unique. And so, one of the last things I want to show you in this is how I organize these things. So here's my, I'm in my football folder. I'm in my LCA folder, my 2022 schedules. I've got a folder for our camps, our spring ball, our spring league. We had a 7-on-7 league. So so even if I have like a tournament or a 7-on-7 deal or whatever, I still use this to schedule it all. For our itinerary on Friday night, I use this to schedule everything. But our summer schedules. But let's say go to camp schedules, for example. So how I do it, I put the year first, because when I go back and look at things, that's how I kind of search for it. You can really name this how you want. I name it Camp 1. I like to know which practice this is. So this is like our, fourth camp practice or whatever. I like to put the day of the week and then the date itself. And so let's say let's say you're during the season, and this is like, I break it down during the season. Like, I'll go back to this. I'll have like a folder that says 2022 season schedules, and then in there I'll say 2022 hyphen week 1, then week 2, then week 3. And so what I do, let's say I've got like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday practices. Well, next week, all I do is I come in here and I highlight those 3 and I hit copy, make a copy, and it copies all 4. And then I move them into week 2's folder. And then I'm just, man, then it's so simple. I'm at that point, once I get a good schedule down that I like for the season, all I'm really doing is changing our install and our script. Like, hey, today we're working these plays. So an individual, make sure you're working on these, individual things from these plays. And it always is like, hey, Alpha 22, Bravo 33. And again, if you've seen our play calling system, that's kind of unique to that. But so scheduling practices during the season is way shorter than during camp week and spring ball, because we're constantly changing and tweaking and trying to learn about our team. Okay. So that is kind of how I go about scheduling practice using this Rooski play calling system. If you're on YouTube watching this versus our website or wherever you're watching this, unless you're already a member in our Huddle library on Rooski Pro, you can go to rooski.com/practice to get this template, to check it out. And inside of Rooski Pro in our Huddle, we'll have more videos. I'll include more of my practice schedules for coaches that they can just copy and paste when we get to our season. There's videos of our practices. So all 22 film, mine breakdowns and notes within Rooski. So you can either get this separately, just the practice system, or you can just dive all into Rooski Pro to get this practice system along with a lot more video, our play calling system, over 20,000 all 22 plays to study within our all 22 or our Huddle library, and then also our Becoming Unscoutable video series, just to help trying to reach your potential in coaching.